we are in Mexico now. That's a lot of fun. So get ready for just a bunch of action. It is New Year's Eve, and so just be ready for the shots.
Chicken. It's still bigger than dinner.
Look, even a kitty in Mexico. Hey, we'll see you later.
Maybe friends?
All right. Look at him over there. Hello. God bless. I know, that looks really good. Good morning, Dolly. Did you miss me? Did you miss me? Hi, Zena. Did you miss me too? Ote. We are back from Mexico to a cold and wet Kentucky. Man, it looks like it rained the whole time we were gone. It is a schlopping mess, but we're happy to be back. We had an absolutely amazing time. That place is gorgeous. It was also really nice to just get some heat on the bones after we're kind of starting to get into the heart of winter. It was nice to warm up. I think Jen and I both she is a lover of winter, and I'm starting to grow to appreciate all benefits of every season. So I'm getting on board with her, but I still like my heat. But I think she was ready to get back to the cold, and she was like, freedom. But we had an amazing time. And before I kind of this video, we was like, should we just make it like a vacation video? It'd be one of those that people can enjoy, see a little piece of Mexico if they're interested in going there, but also be more for us to look back on and watch when we want to. But we learned too many things there. So I wanted to kind of give you our opinions and reflections of travel, being in a different country, and the people that we met, and then kind of how all that summed up into one thing. And it's very important for all of us. So let me start by explaining where we went. So we went to Playa del Carmen in Mexico. So we flew into Cancun. It was about an hour drive, which we had we got a limo. That was really cool to take us down there. So it was about an hour outside of Cancun, but it was a beautiful place. And the resort we stayed at was Platinum Yucatan Princess. So it's one of like many resorts in this area. It's an adults only resort. The reason we chose that one is we already had guilt enough for not taking our kids. We didn't want to watch a bunch of families having a good time and continue that guilt. So we went to an adults only because it was our 10-year anniversary / honeymoon trip. Y'all know we do all trips with our kids most all the time. So this was just the one that it was like, this is where we're going to focus on our marriage and not so much our kids, because that's what our whole marriage has been, is focusing on our children. And to kind of give a quick backstory there, when Jen and I met, it took us 6 months to decide. Actually, we knew at the get-go that we were going to get married, but it took 6 months for me to ask her to marry me. And at that time, she was already pregnant with Wyatt. So we hit the gate running. Now, our actual anniversary is April 20th, but we got a pretty good deal doing it at this time of year. And New Year's is one of Jen's favorite holidays. She really likes to have fun on that holiday. And around here, there's not a whole lot going on. So it's like, make the best of both worlds, and we'll bring in the New Year in Mexico, which was a party. That was interesting on itself. They don't watch the ball drop. We just had a clock. It was, you know, just totally different for us Americans. But that was a resort we went to. It was really cool. The adults only part, I don't want to say small, but it is smaller. So it was really cool because you got to get to know everyone. So it wasn't so big to where it's like you're walking down the hall like, I don't know who any of these people are. Like we started walking through the resort and it's like, hey, I remember, hey. And that was kind of nice. Now, beside it is a much bigger resort that is part of that group that we had access to, which it was ginormous. There was people everywhere. And it was a lot of fun too. But like I said, if you go to that one, you do get access to all of them. So that's where we were. The number one thing we liked the most, which is to no one's surprise, was Jen and I's alone time. We had a honeymoon suite that walked out into the pool, which y'all saw a lot of this on the clips that we shot. It was just nice. Her and I connected on a different level. Like it almost got to a point where we're like, what else do we talk about? Like we have solved all the world problems. We've solved everything. And it was just awesome to have that connection with my wife and her to me. And the reason she's not here, unfortunately, is she came down and got a little sick, which we were a little worried that was going to happen because, you know, you're tied in airplanes, you're around a lot of people. We were in and out. We was like, if we don't get sick, something's going to be a shocker here. But it looks like she might have a little strep, which Wyatt had that before we left, but he was over for a couple weeks. So she's on the mend. Everything's fine, just not in video talking mode. But that was definitely the best part, was just her and I's growth and alone time and just really building that relationship back up. Like it hasn't been 10 years, like it's been year one. The second coolest thing was the friends we've met. We met so many people from everywhere across the world. Now, we'll tell you the dominant place that we met was Canada, Canadians. It appears, at least of what we heard from them, is between like October and April, Canadians get a lot of marketing to get direct flights down to all-inclusive resorts to Mexico. Totally get it. Get them out of the cold for a little bit, get them into the warmth. But we got to meet a lot of Canadians, some close to the border, some that are Frenchmen and French women, and then some that are just further up, closer to Alaska. It was really neat because we always talk about how America's kind of feels like a few different countries. You know, you have the South, the North, the West, the Midwest, and we kind of we have different accents, we act a little different, we talk a little different. Canadians are the same way, and it was really neat to just meet a bunch of different ones from a bunch of different areas. We also met some people from Liverpool. That was really neat. I've never even thought about that, but they were really awesome. Sometimes I feel like these truckers know that we're YouTube creators and they just jailbreak us on the way just on purpose. But we met some people from Liverpool, and then we also met some people from the States, a few. It was a handful of us. We met some people from New Jersey, from New York, from Michigan. The common theme, though, was all people in colder climates, which was kind of funny. But we had a lot of long nights talking to these people, and there was no holding back. Like we all told our opinions on what we thought of different areas, and it was beautiful conversation to be able to talk to people that don't have the same outlook as you do. But you're in Mexico, you're on vacation, so everybody was very lighthearted and really had like opening ears. Like they were listening, and we were listening, and that was cool all in itself, because all of us are very set to get just standard in what we're used to and people with like minds. But the only way that we can actually grow is if we start learning from others and seeing others, you know, hindsights. And I think that really worked. And I think we actually got through to a lot of people talking about farming and homesteading and why we do it. We met one Canadian couple that was actually talking about how they were trying to look for some land in Canada and get a cow. And like, so of course, Jen and I were like, there's a reason y'all met us. Let me tell you about getting a cow. Let's do this thing. And so it was just fun to really interact with people and get to know people. And all of it was great relationships. And I really appreciated everyone's conversations and opinions. And hopefully a couple of those people are going to go back and do a little homesteading, because that was our goal. Now let me tell you about a couple cons, because it wasn't just perfect. There was a couple cons that didn't outweigh the good, but it was some of those things that were like, I don't know if we'll want to do this again. If we do it again, we're definitely going to do it different. One of those was definitely customs. So going through security and stuff was no big deal. But when we got into Mexico, we got pulled to the side, and I mean, it was very intimidating. It was like they had a warrant to search our home. I mean, they were just going through our stuff, and we just got pulled randomly. And so that wasn't great. That kind of started me out a little stressful. And then as soon as we leave there, another lady stops us asking if we have like raw meat in our bags. I'm like, no, I don't have any raw meat in my bags. And then you finally get through there, and then here comes the bombarding of taxi and timeshare people just wow, yelling at you. And it was our first time ever being there. And I'm like, all right, we got to find, they told us turquoise white tie, and they were all the way at the end. So now that we know that, like it would be a lot better the second time, because we know like just get through them, because they're telling you they're taxi drivers, but they're really going to sell you a timeshare, and it's loud and it's chaotic. And after going through customs, after being asked about raw meat, after having your stuff just completely thrown out and you have to put it back in there, it was stressful. We were ready to get out of that airport. So that was one thing that was kind of a con. And then customs coming back to America, little nerve-wracking, right? Like you're waiting. And the unfortunate part with that was we had a lot of American airline planes land like very close to each other, and they were all international planes. Now, caveat, we had a connecting flight. I told Jen, I said, it's an hour and a half. I was like, that should be plenty of time, because we're hungry too. I was like, we should be able to get some food in an hour and a half, because we shouldn't have to go through security, and we just have to go through customs. Well, we landed in Charlotte, North Carolina, and it was packed. Like, we couldn't even get off the plane because they had max occupants in the customs building. So like the fire marshal wouldn't even allow more people in. So we had to wait on the plane after we landed for about an hour just for them to clear out some room. Once we get into customs, there's over 1,000 people waiting in line to get through customs. And all of us, you can just hear, well, there goes my plane, there goes my connecting flight, there goes mine. And lo and behold, there went ours too. So that was a little stressful. And, you know, customs blames American Airlines blames customs for staffing and different stuff like that. But in my opinion, it was because there was just way too many planes that were international that were landing at the same time, and they really could have spaced us out a lot more. The second sliver of that made it difficult, we were in Charlotte. So I was Googling how far away is Knoxville, because that's where our car was at the Knoxville, Tennessee airport. And it was only 3.5 hours. I told Janice that instead of going to American Airlines saying, hey, we missed our flight because of customs, them getting us back on, which probably wouldn't be till the next day, I was like, let's just go get a rental car. We'll rent that instead of having to pay for a hotel room, and we'll just go to Knoxville, drop it off, get our car, and we can go on home. And so that was kind of our plan. So, you know, when you get out of an airport, if you've flown, there's rental cars everywhere. So we started asking them, and they're like, we don't do one-way trips, we only do round trips. I was like, what are you talking about? You only do round trips? That makes no sense to me. You're a rental car place and you only do round trips. I was like, how many people land in Charlotte knowing that nobody's gonna pick them up? They need to rent a car, do their thing as long as they're here, and then bring it back. I was like, I feel like you're dealing with a very slim amount of people. They said they don't have enough cars. So if they do a one-way trip, then they're losing a car. I'm like, but you're all the same company. Can't somebody bring it back down or something? I don't know. It was very frustrating that was kind of their roles. So rental car was out. One company said that they would, we could hire a driver. So if we could hire someone to drive their rental car to drop us off and then bring us back, but that was going to be an outrageous price. So we ended up having to go to American Airlines. Long story short, they blamed customs, so they wouldn't pay for the hotel room, which was BS in my opinion. So we had to pay for a hotel room, and then we got to Knoxville the next morning on a 9 a.m. flight, and we got back home on Friday. So, you know, when you look back, it's a blimp on the radar, but it's one of those do I want to deal with that again? So that's part of it. It's a lot of learning experiences for doing it for the first time. I will say there is a global line that people you can go do this beforehand. It's kind of like the TSA pre-check, but it's with customs. So if you are traveling international a lot, definitely do that. I don't know what it's called. It's global something or another. I'm sure you can Google it and find it. But those people were rolling right through. It's like with the pilots and the flight attendants, and then some of the people that do this a lot, that's where they were going and zoomed right through. Wouldn't have been an issue. So there is an option. We just didn't know about it. So yeah. And the last thing I want to talk about with this trip is probably the most important, and it's something that I think we all need to be reminded about. Us Americans go through a lot of stuff here. This country has a lot of different politics that are happening, a lot of different social interactions that are happening, and from our eyes, it looks like it's all going downhill. We are plummeting. And so a lot of us, it's we need to do something. It's a lot of the reason we preserve and put back is because we're not sure what the future holds. I will tell you, out of meeting so many people, everyone still thinks America is the best. And that was really cool to see. Everybody, all the Canadians, people from over in the Europe area, all of these people were America's still the greatest, because they see all of our media. They know the drama that there is, and they have their own opinions, which was interesting too. But they still think America is great, and they still think America is the #1 country. And I tell you what, after being in Mexico and then coming back, I agree too. I've never not thought America was great. We just had those little things going on. It's like, we don't feel like we used to be, right? And I know a lot of y'all share those same feelings, but I'm telling you, to the rest of the world, we're still top, and it was great. And I couldn't agree more. So y'all, to sum all that up, if you are planning on traveling, just make sure you look into the stuff that you're allowed to take into Mexico, not allowed to take into Mexico, or allowed to bring back to America kind of thing. Because I mean, you're just exposed. I really like driving. Not a huge fan of flying, and it's not because I'm scared of flying. It's about the control. You kind of feel like you're a prisoner until they tell you can fly. And I kind of hate that mindset. Like, I don't even like public transportation. I like to have my own vehicle so I can leave or go when I want to. So you have to kind of overcome that. But I will tell you, where we went was absolutely gorgeous. It was a beautiful time. We had an amazing, amazing time connecting our marriage. Could that have been done in America? Absolutely. But we wanted to taste and have a little different experience because neither one of us have actually been out of the country, like landing. I've had a cruise. Jen hasn't even had that. So it was an experience that we wanted to kind of mark off our bucket list. And it was a whole lot of fun. We'll see. We need to recover from everything that we had to go through outside of the fun to know if we'll ever do that again. But right now, we're just happy, we're relaxed, and we know that through the interactions, America is great. And if you all ever want to do it, do it. Just go through it. Like I said, all the cons were just little blimps on the radar and did not outweigh all the good that we went through. But you all were ready to give you a lot of good stuff this week. We had a little emergency while we were gone, Raylan and her teeth. So we actually are having to handle that today on Monday. And then we'll get back into normal program. And of course, the big news will be coming soon. So you got to stay tuned for that. Y'all, if you're new around here, hit that subscribe button. We love y'all. And until the next one, bye.